Most married couples think they understand how Social Security works. You work your whole life, your spouse gets about 50%, and everything just lines up. But there's a version of this story where one small decision quietly locks in a lower income for the rest of your life. No warning, no reset, no second chance. Imagine reaching retirement doing what feels completely reasonable, and accidentally giving up thousands of dollars you didn't even know you were entitled to. Because the truth is, when it comes to spousal benefits, it's not about how much you earned. It's about when and how you decide to start. And most people get that part wrong. There's a quiet trap built into Social Security that most married couples never see coming. It feels simple on the surface, almost too simple to question. One partner works. The other either didn't work as much or earned less. So naturally, people assume the system will balance things out. Maybe the lower earning partner gets half. Maybe everything just adjusts automatically. But that assumption is where the problem begins. Because spousal benefits don't work like a clean 50% split. They come with conditions, timing rules, hidden limits. And the most important part. These rules don't operate in isolation. They interact. That means one decision you make today can quietly affect another benefit later. And by the time you realize it, the outcome is already locked in. If you're married and approaching retirement, this isn't some rare edge case. This is something that affects millions of couples every single year. And what makes it dangerous isn't complexity. It's the illusion of simplicity. You think you understand it, so you don't question it. You don't question it, so you don't plan around it. And because you don't plan around it, you end up leaving money on the table. Not because you made a reckless decision, but because you made a reasonable one based on incomplete information. The most common belief about spousal benefits sounds simple. If one partner worked and the other didn't, the second person just gets 50% of the first person's benefit. Clean, predictable, easy to plan around. Except, that's not actually how it works. The 50% number people talk about isn't based on what the higher earning partner is receiving. It's based on what they would receive at their full retirement age. Let's walk through a simple example. Imagine the higher earner has a full retirement age benefit of $3,000 per month. That means the maximum spousal benefit available is $1,500. But that $1,500 isn't automatic. It's just a ceiling. If the lower earning partner decides to claim early, say, at 64 or 65, instead of waiting until full retirement age, that $1,500 gets permanently reduced. And the reduction is not small. In fact, reductions on spousal benefits are even steeper than reductions on your own personal benefit. So now, instead of receiving $1,500, they might be locked into something noticeably lower for life. And there's another layer most people miss. That $1,500 is still calculated from the full retirement age benefit, not from whatever the higher earner decides to do. So even if the higher earner delays and eventually receives more than $3,000, the spousal benefit doesn't increase with it. It stays capped. This is where the illusion breaks. Because what looks like a simple half of whatever you get rule is actually a fixed number tied to a specific moment in time and sensitive to when you claim. And once you trigger it, you don't get to revisit the decision later. Now, here's where things start to feel unfair. Even if you understand the 50% rule correctly, you still might not receive anything at all. Because there's a second condition built into spousal benefits that most people don't expect. The higher earning partner has to file first. Until that happens, the lower earning partner isn't eligible to receive a spousal benefit. Not a reduced one, not a partial one, nothing. Let's think through what this actually means. Imagine one partner is ready to retire at 67. They've done the math. They know their maximum spousal benefit is $1,500. They're eligible. They're ready. But the higher earner decides to wait. Maybe they want to delay until 70 to increase their own benefit. From their perspective, that decision makes perfect sense. But for the other partner, it creates a gap. A silent gap where they are technically eligible by age, but blocked by timing. If there's even a small age difference between the two, this gap can stretch longer than expected. 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even 5. That's potentially $1,500 per month, not coming in. And here's the emotional trap. From the outside, delaying sounds smart. You're increasing future income. You're being patient. You're optimizing. But inside the household, it can feel like you're watching money you could have received disappear in real time. So couples face a difficult trade-off. Do you file earlier so both partners can start receiving income now, or do you delay knowing that one person may have to wait with nothing in exchange for a higher long-term benefit? There's no obvious answer, but there is a very real cost to not understanding how this rule works, because in this system, being eligible doesn't mean being able to collect. Quick pause for a second. Hi, Ted here. Before we go any further, I just want to be clear about something. I'm not a Social Security expert, and this isn't personal financial advice. What I'm walking through are simplified examples. The goal is just to help you see how these rules actually play out in real life. Because once you understand the patterns, you start to notice that small decisions, especially around timing, can have much bigger consequences than they first appear. All right, let's keep going. Now, let's talk about the part that almost nobody expects. Because even if both partners have their own Social Security benefit, that doesn't mean those benefits simply add together. They don't stack. They top off. Here's what that means in practice. Imagine one partner has a full retirement age benefit of $2,800. The other partner has their own benefit of $800. At first glance, it seems logical to assume the second partner could receive both their $800 plus a spousal benefit that brings them up to $1,400, which is half of $2,800. And in a way, that's true. But not in the way most people think. The system doesn't treat these as two separate streams of income that grow independently. Instead, it treats the spousal benefit as an adjustment, a top-off. So the $800 doesn't stack on top of $1,400. It gets filled up to $1,400. That's the ceiling. Now let's take it one step further. Suppose that same partner decides to claim their own benefit early at 62. Because of the early filing reduction, their $800 drops to about $560 per month. So for several years, that's all they receive, $560. Then, later, once the higher earner files, the spousal benefit kicks in. But again, it doesn't stack. It tops off. So instead of jumping to $1,400 immediately, they receive an additional $600, bringing the total to about $1,160 per month. Not $1,400. Because part of that benefit was already reduced earlier. And here's where things get subtle. That early decision permanently lowered one part of the equation, and the system never fully makes up for it. But at the same time, having even a small personal benefit creates flexibility. Because unlike someone with no benefit at all, this person was at least able to receive $560 per month while waiting. So for years, they had some income, instead of none. And that changes the entire timing dynamic. This is why understanding the top-off rule matters. Because it reveals something most people don't realize. It's not just about how much each person qualifies for. It's about how those benefits interact and when they're triggered. Now we get to the part that changes everything. Because up to this point, it's easy to think in terms of two people, two benefits, two income streams. But Social Security doesn't work that way forever. At some point, one benefit disappears. When one partner passes away, the surviving partner doesn't keep both benefits. They receive the higher of the two, and the smaller one is gone. This is what we can call the survivor shift, and it completely changes how you should think about timing. Let's go back to a familiar situation. One partner has a full retirement age benefit of $3,000. The other has little to no benefit of their own. Now imagine two different paths. In the first path, the higher earner decides to file earlier around 65. That allows both partners to start receiving income sooner. The lower earning partner can begin collecting close to $1,500 per month. There's immediate cash flow. It feels efficient. It feels right. But the higher earner locks in a smaller benefit for life. In the second path, the higher earner delays. They wait. And because of that, the lower earning partner has to wait too. That means giving up $1,500 per month for several years. That's not a small number. Over just 5 years, that's around $90,000 in missed income. And this is where most people stop the analysis. They see the $90,000 and think, that's too much to give up. But the system isn't finished yet, because eventually, one partner will be left with a single benefit. And if the higher earner delayed, that surviving partner could now be receiving about $2,000 more per month than they otherwise would have. Not for a year, not for a short window, but potentially for decades. So the question quietly shifts. It's no longer, how much can we receive right now? It becomes, what income will still be there when one of us is gone? And that's the part many couples underestimate. Because the decision that felt like a short-term sacrifice can turn into long-term stability for the person who lives longer. This is why the survivor rule carries so much weight. It forces you to think beyond the moment you retire and into the years that come after everything changes. So why do so many couples still get this wrong? Even after understanding the rules, even after seeing the numbers, the decision often goes the same way. They choose the option that pays sooner. Not because it's better long-term, but because it feels safer right now. This is where psychology quietly takes over. When you're standing at the edge of retirement, uncertainty feels bigger than logic. A guaranteed $1,500 per month today feels real, tangible, immediate. But a higher benefit years from now, that feels abstract, distant, easy to discount. So your mind starts framing the decision in a very specific way. If we don't take it now, we're losing money, even if that loss is only temporary. This is called loss aversion. We feel the pain of missing out more strongly than the benefit of gaining later. And Social Security timing decisions are built right into that bias, because one option gives you income now, while the other asks you to wait with no visible reward in the short term. There's also another layer most people don't think about. We naturally plan as if both people will always be there. 2 lives, 2 timelines, 2 incomes. But the system is designed for something else. Eventually, it becomes 1 life, 1 timeline, 1 income. And that shift is uncomfortable to think about, so it gets ignored, which leads to a hidden trade-off. You optimize for the present and quietly weaken the future. You reduce the income that will matter the most later to protect the income that feels important now. And the hardest part. At the moment you make the decision, it still feels completely reasonable. So how do you actually make a decision here? Because by now, you've probably realized this isn't about finding a perfect answer. It's about choosing which trade-off you're willing to accept. And the way to approach it isn't by asking, what gives us the most money right now? It's by asking, what outcome are we trying to protect? Let's walk through 3 different ways to think about it. The first approach is to prioritize income now. In this case, the higher earner files earlier around 62 to 65. That allows both partners to begin receiving benefits sooner. The lower earning partner can access close to $1,500 per month without waiting. There's immediate cash flow, and for many households that stability matters. But there's a cost. The higher earner permanently locks in a lower benefit, which means if they pass away first, the surviving partner inherits a smaller income for the rest of their life. So this approach works best if your priority is short-term income or if health concerns make waiting less certain. The second approach is to aim for balance. Here, the higher earner waits until full retirement age around 67. This avoids the steep reductions from claiming early while still limiting how long the other partner has to wait. The spousal benefit reaches its full level close to $1,500, and the overall structure becomes more stable. You're not maximizing everything, but you're also not sacrificing too much on either side. This tends to be the middle ground strategy. The third approach is to prioritize long-term protection. In this case, the higher earner delays as long as possible, often until 70. This increases their benefit beyond the $3,000 baseline, which then becomes the foundation for the survivor benefit later on. But the trade-off is clear. The lower earning partner may receive nothing from spousal benefits for several years. That could mean giving up around $1,500 per month in the short term. So why would anyone choose this? Because over time, that decision can translate into significantly higher income for the surviving partner, sometimes around $2,000 more per month, potentially lasting for decades. This approach is less about maximizing early income and more about protecting the final stage of the plan. And that's really the key idea. There is no single correct strategy. Each path shifts money across time. One gives you more now and less later. Another delays now to give you more later, and one tries to balance both. The real decision isn't about math alone. It's about which version of the future you're preparing for. In the end, this isn't really about 3 rules. It's about one decision that quietly shapes everything that comes after. 2 couples can follow what feels like the exact same path, both reasonable, both logical, and still end up in very different places. One chooses to receive income earlier, keeps things comfortable in the short term, but leaves behind a smaller benefit that has to last. The other waits, gives up income for a few years, and builds a larger foundation that continues long after one partner is gone. Same system, same rules, completely different outcomes. Because the first check you receive matters, but the last check that remains matters more. So if you're married and approaching retirement, don't just ask how much you can get. Ask how your decisions will carry forward years from now when the situation looks very different. And if this made you think a little differently about timing, I'd be curious to hear what you would choose. Would you take the income now or protect the income that comes later? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this, simple examples that reveal how these systems really work, make sure to subscribe. Because sometimes it's not about earning more. It's about making the decisions that help what you already have. Last,